up Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Gordon. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. How are you, Matt? Sorry, I slipped in here during the intro. I was finishing up a pre-record for a show that's airing tomorrow.
Oh, what's the show you're going to be working on, or that you're going to be airing?
The Choice, which is the show that Ash and I are doing on, like we're going episode by episode for The Chosen. If you're familiar,
you are?
Yeah. If you're familiar with that show, we just did episode 6, so
Of season 1?
Of season 1. Yep.
Oh, so you're breaking it. That's interesting. Yeah, I watched the first 3 seasons of that, and I found that I didn't watch the movies. I should do that, but then I found that was the 4th season. I'm getting kind of confused now, but I think it was the 4th season. That's out, right?
The 5th season's out now too.
5th season's out, right?
So they've done the 4th season. The 5th season is the Last Supper. Like the whole season is the Last Supper. Pretty much, they do, like, they start each episode with like a moment from the Last Supper, and then they, run through the storyline, and then it culminates at the very end of the season with the Last Supper in the 5th season. So, and then I guess the 6th season's coming out sometime. So,
well, I fell off with the 4th season, I think, because or was the 3rd? No, I think it was the 4th, because I really found the first 3 to be super engaging, and then I just found I listened to the first 2 episodes, and maybe I gave up too soon, but I just found like the whole writing staff was a different writing staff, and it got.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it seems like there was like some sort of a shakeup in the production team, and it just, like, I found it lacked the substance that the first 3 seasons had. So, but you're saying it continued to be good.
Oh, it's really, the 5th season's great. So I would encourage you to power through. If you're not enamored with the 4th season, just power through, because it's because the 5th season's fantastic. So
okay,
yeah,
all right, cool. I hope there's a happy ending.
Well, I gave the spoiler alert at the very beginning of the first episode. I said he dies. So
the hero dies.
I see Jackie's in the chat saying no more spoilers, so we won't do any more spoilers. But he does die, guys.
Or does he?
Yeah, or does he? Right? Yeah.
All right, so here we go. We got a bunch of things to talk about. I missed the last episode. I was still like wrecked by jet lag. So, this is the first, I think, episode I believe that we've done since I got back from Russia. I think my memory rambled here.
It worked out because last week was the Saudi Crown Prince came, and like he's my guy in terms of my area of focus. So I did so many shows last week, just breaking down the meeting, breaking down the deals that were being announced. I think what I ended up doing is Trump was speaking at noon last week at the Saudi U.S. Investment Forum. So we watched the speech live, and then I did commentary afterwards. So it worked out.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. I mean, what's going on right now is super interesting pertaining to the MB, and the fact that you brought this to my attention. I didn't notice this until I saw your post, but that MBS took issue with the push to sign on to the Abraham Accords. I liked your analysis. Do you want to quickly go through that for people who don't know what your take was there?
Absolutely. So the what you're referring to is this article by Barak Ravid that he published yesterday. Let me just pull it up real quick. And I talked about this all last week. I've been talking about this for weeks and months. There have been these moves or these efforts to incentivize Saudi Arabia to forget about Palestinian statehood and normalize with Israel in exchange for something else. The F-35 deal was one of them. The nuclear deal was another one, because they signed the agreement, the 123 agreement of the 1954 Atomic Energy Act last week, which allows U.S. vendors to bring technologies and services, nuclear services, to Saudi Arabia. They currently are trying to build 2 reactors. And as of right now, South Korea and Japan are the leaders in the clubhouse to build those reactors. But MBS really wanted the United States to do it. So now they can. So they try to tie it to that. They try to tie it to the nuclear deal. They try to tie it to that defense pact that was kind of like the Article 5 defense pact, where if somebody attacks Saudi Arabia, the U.S. military will respond. My understanding is that we already kind of had a deal like that in place that Henry Kissinger and King Faisal put in place with the petrodollar in 1974 effectively. But now I think Trump just kind of codified it and took it to the next level and really highlighted that it was that it really is like an Article 5 style deal. Point is that all of these shiny objects were put in front of MBS, and the narratives that were out there was that, the Saudis are going to forsake the Palestinians and they're going to grab the shiny object and go with it. And my argument all along has been they're not going to forsake the Palestinians. They are going to get the shiny object, but that's only because MBS is holding all the cards at this point. He clearly has a very strong relationship with Donald Trump. Saudi Arabia has a lot to offer us, just like they have a lot to offer everybody else in terms of investment. They're divesting out of their dependency on oil, and there's no reason for us not to partner with them on all the things that Donald Trump announced last week. So the article that Barack Ravid published yesterday was this one. And it says, scoop, Trump's meeting with MBS got tense over Israel. And the TLDR is basically that the report is that Trump was like yelling at MBS and that there was all this drama because Trump was disappointed that MBS won't just normalize with Israel and just make it happen. Now, the take that you're referring to is, do I think that Barack Ravid was actually told this by the Trump administration? Yes, I do. I think that he accurately conveys whatever he's told by the Trump administration. So I think that this narrative was given to Barack Ravid to publish and put out there. Do I think this actually happened? No, I don't.
Okay.
And here's why. Because we saw the interactions between Trump and MBS last week. I mean, very, very cordial, very friendly, almost like goofing off, like having fun. They clearly have a very strong relationship that transcends just geopolitics or, the leaders of two countries. And I think Donald Trump going into that meeting last week understood where MBS stood as far as the Palestinian statehood thing, that was a flag that him and Faisal bin Farhan, the Saudi foreign minister, have put firmly in the ground and said, we are not going to normalize with Israel, meaning we're not going to sign on to the Abraham Accords unless Israel recognizes the Palestinian state, which it should have already done by now. Palestine recognized Israel in 1993, and restore the borders with the West Bank to 1967 pre-Six-Day War conditions. Those are the two things that have to happen. But the number one is Palestinian statehood. Now, what I was arguing last week and the week before and the week before that and so on is, if MBS relents, all the analysts out there, even the ones that I think are pretty spot on when it comes to, Ukraine, Russia, and all that stuff, all of them have said that the Saudis are fickle, and the Saudis are gonna, are self-serving, and they're gonna betray the Palestinians at some point, and they're gonna throw them to the wayside and grab the shiny object and move on without them because they don't really care about Palestine. And the argument that I've made is, number one, I actually think MBS does care about Palestine, but number two, even if you think that they don't, even if you have a more cynical view of the Saudis, they've put the flag in the ground. They've made that their condition. If they relent on that at this point, they will look weak in the eyes of not only the world, but more importantly, the Muslim world. And the Muslim world will no longer respect MBS the way that they have come to respect him. I mean, the only reason the Muslims have not gone to war with Israel at this point after October 7 is because of MBS. He's the one who held all of them back and said, sit down, shut up. There's a plan in place. Like, we got this, but you have to sit down and we all have to work together on this.
Mm-hmm.
If he relents, though, on Palestine, he betrays Palestine, all of that goodwill and trust goes out the window, and they're going to view him as a traitor. They're going to say, you're a traitor. We can never believe you again. And as Donald Trump said in his original book, The Art of the Deal, once you lose your word as a negotiator, your word is your bond. Once you lose that as a negotiator, you can never be a deal maker ever again. You tell somebody that we have a deal, and then you come back later and send the contract and say we actually don't have a deal. can never again be taken seriously as a negotiator, and your days of deal making are over. I think that applies here. So when I say that I don't think this actually happened, I mean I don't think this actually happened. Trump put in his 20-point peace plan a pathway to Palestinian statehood. He wouldn't have done that if he didn't recognize that MBS sees that as a demand. Like, that has to happen. So I think Trump gets that. He did the May 3rd, 2017 meeting with Abbas, where he promised Abbas that he would liberate Palestine from Israel effectively. And I think Trump is also going to make good on his word that he gave it to Abbas. So
do we have any more details now? I know it's been a little bit ambiguous pertaining to the details of the Gaza peace plan, as far as, like, we have general terms, general points that are put into motion, but do we have contracts handed out for the reconstruction yet? Do we have the resource allocation that's been created as the fund that I know was promised by a bunch of Arab states and some players on the Western side too, towards that reconstruction, or are we not there yet? Do you know where things are?
So officially, I haven't seen anything put out, like, formally that hey, here's exactly what's going to happen. My guess, and this is just pure speculation, my guess is that a lot of this stuff has probably been worked out. It probably has materialized in concept, and they know what they're going to do, but they're being very careful. And you could see this last week because Trump, very smart, very, very wise, in my opinion, didn't do a press conference. Normally the template is they arrive at 11 o'clock in the morning, they pull up in the car, Trump greets them, they come inside, they sit in the Oval Office, they do like a sit down with the press, they answer a few questions, they talk about a few things, then they go have a lunch behind closed doors, they work out whatever deal they're going to work out. Most of these deals have probably been worked out before that actual meeting. And then they do a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock press conference in the afternoon where they stand in front of podiums and they take questions from the press. That last part didn't happen this time, and instead he did a black tie party at nighttime. I suspect the reason he didn't do that is you got a glimpse of what that would have looked like when that one ABC reporter like attacked MBS and was like bringing up 9/11 and bringing up Khashoggi and all that stuff. I think a press conference would have devolved into something really ugly and disparaging for MBS. Obviously, MBS is the only person who's actually administered justice in the name of 9/11 victims. He's actually arrested his corrupt cousins who were involved in that stuff. But none of that, of course, that's all lost on the media, of course. And people who don't really track this stuff the way that we do. Mm-hmm. So my right now where we are with this is Trump has a few weeks ago submitted a draft resolution to the UN for what this ISF thing is going to look like. And in that draft resolution, it clearly stated that there was going to be a pathway to Palestinian statehood as long as the Palestinian Authority complied with all the reforms that they had all already agreed on months ago. And that Turkey was going to be involved in this coalition of soldiers in the ISF. I think it's Turkey, Jordan, Egypt, and maybe Indonesia, perhaps Pakistan. But Turkey was the big sticking point because Netanyahu and the Israelis were like, over our dead bodies, is Turkey going to come into Gaza? I suspect, as I said before, that it's all about Article 5 in NATO. If you have Turkish troops in Gaza and the IDF attacks them, you have now initiated Article 5 and the U.S. goes to war with Israel. So that's what I think is the play here, the strategy from Trump. Now, where do we stand right now? The UN has accepted the draft resolution. So yes. Now the UN is saying, go ahead and create this force. Now I can tell you, Matt, I mentioned this last week. I spoke to somebody who and I know who spoke to somebody. So I spoke to somebody who spoke to somebody who lives in Israel, and what the person told my friend is that they noticed that there are American troops in Israel now, and the American troops are building a base in southern Israel. So my guess is that this base that they're building is probably the base that the ISF is going to operate out of, because the Americans are supposed to be there in like a supervising capacity. They're going to supervise, they're going to train, they're going to help manage the relationship between the ISF soldiers and the IDF, right? So I think this is all like plowing forward, but it's very obvious to me that Israel is going to do everything it can it's going to throw everything it can, including the kitchen sink, to knock this thing off kilter and not allow it to come fully to fruition.
Okay. Yeah. Secondary question: where's Qatar standing right now in a lot of this? Because I know Qatar has been they've also had a shift in their character in the last around since 2017. There was a deal with the U.S. military where Qatar purchased, I forget how many, 35 F-16s or something like that, some big number. Mm-hmm. And they were also granted access to U.S. terrain. There's a Qatari, I think in Idaho, there's a major military base which is staffed by something like 300 Qatar soldiers. Did you hear about that? It's something I've been recently picking up on.
The major military base, Al-Ued, I think is how you say it. That's CENTCOM. That's like the major air base in Qatar. That's where CENTCOM is located. But yes, in 2017, Qatar signed I'm going to pull this up. Qatar signed a counter-terrorism agreement with the United States. I think they actually signed it at the Sword Dance, which is May 20th, 2017. And it's significant because they were the first country to sign anything like this. Let's see. That's the one from this year. Here it is. Oh wait, sorry. Am I in the wrong tab? I think I'm in the wrong tab. Yeah, I need to come over here.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, yeah, I'll wait till you pick that up before I ask a follow-up one.
Okay, so here's the article from July. So they signed it in July of 2017. It's U.S. Qatar signed memorandum of understanding on combating terrorism financing. The United States and Qatar signed an agreement on Tuesday aimed at combating the financing of terrorism. A U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson visited Doha to try to end a month-long rift between Western allied Arab states. Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and the UAE and Egypt imposed sanctions on Qatar last month, accusing it of financing extremist groups and allying with the Gulf Arab states' arch foe Iran. Allegations Doha denies. Tillerson said the agreement signed with his Qatari counterpart Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani had been under discussion for months. Quote, the agreement, which we both have signed on behalf of our governments, represents weeks of intensive discussions between experts and reinvigorates the spirit of the Riyadh summit, Tillerson said in a joint news conference with Sheikh Mohammed. Basically, the way I interpreted this, because you and I both know, like, Qatar has been a safe haven for these groups, like Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, these terrorist groups. I think this was the sign that if there's a good twin, evil twin in every society, the good twin was now taking the wheel and making moves against the bad twin. And all of a sudden, after this thing is signed in 2017, ISIS starts reeling. It culminates, I think it was in November 2018, that Trump and Putin both said they were at a G7 conference, some kind of conference, and they met on the sidelines. I want to say it was August, maybe November of 2017, or I'm sorry, 2018. And they said, they came out afterwards and they said, we're going to now fight ISIS together. And in a matter of months, ISIS is completely wiped out from Syria, like gone, totally eradicated. And but again, before you go and actually drop bombs on them, you need to cut off their financing. You need to cut off their supply chain, their logistics. And that's what I think Qatar was helping them do. So when you said that there is this about face and there's this change of face from Qatar, that's what I think it was. And now Tamim and Trump are clearly, buddies and are working together.
So that's useful. And then the thing that I'd been picking up on, I guess it came from, I just pulled up the article that somebody had sent me. It was from the Economic Times, which featured, this is from October 10th. I'll send you a link to it. And I didn't verify it fully. So is this something that you've picked up on, where I guess it was in October that there was an executive order or maybe it was September, signed by Trump, saying that the United States shall regard any armed attack on the territory, sovereignty, or critical infrastructure of the state of Qatar as a threat to the peace and security of the United States. And that was after Israel had launched an attack on Qatar, killing a number of Hamas negotiators at that time. And then Pete Hegseth said something to the effect that, quote, that Idaho, the mountain air base in Idaho, would be opened up for Qatar to station upwards of 300 soldiers and their families from Qatar next to Boise, like 50 miles southeast of Boise. Is that something that is that verified?
Oh yeah. So this is the executive order that you're referring to, assuring the security of the state of Qatar, and effectively it's the exact same thing that Saudi Arabia was just given. It is.
Yeah, it sounds identical. Yeah.
Yeah, it is an Article 5 agreement that is really just aimed at Israel, because again, like most countries around the world have no interest in bombing Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia is investing in everybody's economy right now. So in Qatar, very much the same way. So really, this is just Trump putting himself between Qatar and Israel and saying this is never going to happen again, because if it does, Israel, you will find yourself at war with the United States. And this was very much a shot across the bow of Netanyahu to let him know that that was the biggest mistake of his political career, was bombing Doha. Now, the airbase you're referring to was very much misrepresented in the media and misrepresented like in the information battle space. This is a very common, as I understand it, this is a very common thing that we do with partners from all over the world, where we bring their pilots to our bases, we train them up, because we're selling them the planes. And then, we teach them how to use the equipment. We teach them how to maintain the equipment, because we have to bring in all the maintenance and engineer guys who are actually going to be maintaining the planes. And, they spend months and months and months training on this stuff. And then we send them home.
Okay. So they're not going to have any influence over the policies of the base per se. It's just that they're here to be trained and then go home. That's
no. Yeah.
Okay, good.
And Laura Loomer was representing it as we were building them their own air base. It's an existing air base, and we were basically building them a hangar to park their planes and to keep all their staff, like all the pilots. And
that was the spin I was encountering. Yeah. And I wasn't really too sure exactly what the influence level was, because I see the same thing, for me, I've paid a lot of attention on the anti-China psyops thing. And I've seen the same kind of messaging being put out when you have Taiwanese soldiers being brought into North America to be trained. And then all of the media goes high wire, like on a hype, saying that, look, it's Chinese takeover militarily of our bases, and they completely misconstrue it. So the fact that they would then do that same thing to Qatar would make perfect sense. So I appreciate just getting your thoughts directly on that.
Yep.
Before we shift gears to the 28 point, or the very, very fluid but interesting possible resolution to the insanity on the Ukraine front, and the 28-point peace plan and everything that's come with that over the subsequent recent days, let's listen to a couple of words from today's sponsors. So the first one, let's just plug it in here, is River BTC. There it is. River BTC coming up. Okay, my script has completely disappeared. Oh, that's weird. It's like a black ice. Oh, there it is. I got it. Here, let's just play this. I do, but we're gonna play it again from the beginning. So let me just do this the right way. Let's do proper justice to River BTC. Okay, here we go. River BTC. Stack sats with River, the Bitcoin-only platform built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. Why River? 0 free recurring buys. Stack Bitcoin effortlessly, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly. 3.8% Bitcoin interest on cash. FDIC insured, no minimums, withdraw at any time. Expert US-based support. Human help plus River client services for big buys of $100,000 or more. Business accounts, boost your balance sheet with Bitcoin and earn 3.8% paid in Bitcoin. Top tier wallet, send, receive, and manage Bitcoin securely. Unmatched security, full reserve custody, multi-sig, cold storage, and proof of reserves. Join the Bitcoin revolution at badlandsmedia.tv/river and earn real returns. That's badlandsmedia.tv/river. All right. That was it. Okay, now the next one. The next one is Trezor. Here we go. Trezor coming up. Do you say Trezor? Trezor?
Yeah, I sometimes trip up over it. Like when I'm doing the read, I want to say Trezor just to emphasize the fact that it's OR, but I think it's Trezor. So I don't know.
Trezor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Trezor, I think, is probably the natural way to say it.
All right, I'm gonna brainwash myself into doing that. Okay, Trezor. Here we go. Okay, your crypto deserves the ultimate protection, and Trezor delivers just that. Trezor offers a secure and user-friendly solution to managing your digital assets. It delivers on its promise of robust security, providing a crucial layer of protection against online threats and unauthorized access. Since 2014, over 2 million users have trusted Trezor, the world's first hardware wallet, to secure their Bitcoin, Ethereum, and over 9,000 other coins and tokens. With state-of-the-art encryption and offline storage, Trezor keeps your assets safe from hackers, malware, and exchange breaches. Its open source design ensures transparency, while the Trezor Suite app makes managing your portfolio a breeze. Buy, sell, swap, and track with ease. Designed with simplicity in mind, Trezor ensures that even those new to cryptocurrency can navigate its features with ease. With Trezor, you can confidently manage your cryptocurrencies, knowing that your digital wealth is protected by industry-leading security protocols. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/Trezor to get your Trezor safeguard your crypto with confidence. That's badlandsmedia.tv/Trezor. Okay, that was it. So, at this point, I was hoping maybe to get some of your thoughts and maybe we could just share some ideas about what's going on now with the 28-point plan. Since it came out, I mean, I read through it. There's a lot of really good things in there, a lot of points of optimism. Even Putin had said that despite its, the blemishes and things, it still does contain effectively the spirit of the Alaska meeting, of the Alaska summit that had happened a couple of months ago between Putin and Trump, where certain ideas for resolving the conflict on Ukraine were maintained. And he said there's a lot to work with. There's a lot of space for us to have a dialogue. But that being said, arsonists being arsonists who only know how to start fires have been trying to light it on fire. And we know that there has been emergency meetings in Switzerland and Geneva with, France and Britain and Germany trying to shake it up and dilute it, although they were never invited to participate even in this question of a peace deal. We know that a lot of it has some very good things. Like I said, it involves recognizing the Donbass as having joined Russia. That would be recognized. It calls for inserting a neutrality commitment into the Ukrainian constitution. That's very good. Calls for a ceasefire at the end, which, no duh. But like I said, there's a lot of back and forth. The Ukrainian side has been trying to also manipulate it a little bit, I think dishonestly. Trump just recently this morning said that the Ukrainian modifications are not welcomed, which threw off, what's his name?
Yermak.
Yermak, yeah, right in the middle of an interview he was given about how great this thing was and how much it was going forward. All of a sudden, RT just produced an article, which I think actually you have right there. Yeah, okay, this is a few hours ago. This is an RT article where Yermak, super corrupt figure who was caught in the middle of tons of graft, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars of skimming off the top stuff. This guy, who's the chief of staff of Zelensky, was giving an interview talking about how great, this peace deal was going and everything was going forward. And then right in the middle of the interview, the interviewer shows him a tweet of Donald Trump basically saying the Ukrainian modifications are garbage and this is not going to work. And he basically had to stop the interview and say he has to remodify his thinking according to the new reality. So what's your take? Where do you think things are at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the dance that's happening, so to speak, or the conflict, the friction that's happening is not between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. I think the friction is between Donald Trump and the rest of this, whatever this coalition is that backs Ukraine, which includes the Zelensky regime, NATO, the EU, the neocons, the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, all of it, the whole, I guess what you would call the deep state, right? They are, we saw the reports last week about how they were just shut out of this whole thing. And they, for some reason, they're now calling it secret talks. They've been reporting on this for 10 days. that the United States, that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin and their teams have been working out this deal without Europe or Ukraine even being involved, which just goes to show like what like the actual power dynamics here. And now all of a sudden they're starting to describe it as of yesterday. Well, Russia and the United States are now engaging in secret talks. Well, they're not secret talks. They're just the United States and Russia are the two actual players in this conflict that matter. Nobody else matters. There isn't a single other country who can stand up on its own and fight Russia, including Germany. And I saw a great interview with actually, it might be worth playing this clip. I thought this was a really, really interesting clip from Colonel McGregor. Let's see, right here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, that's not the clip. Okay. Well. Anyway, it's a clip of him describing Germany. He's asked by Judge Napolitano, "Is Germany going to leave the EU and NATO?" And he says, "Yeah, I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point." And he goes on to explain that Germany is basically a cash cow for NATO and the EU. And he said that he always was. It always made him angry back in the 90s when he was serving. And people Europeans would use the phrase, NATO was created to repel Russia and suppress Germany. That was the whole point of NATO. And he's like, well, wait a minute. Germany is our best ally in NATO. They're the ones who provide all the military equipment, the soldiers, the money. Like without Germany, there really isn't, like aside from the United States, without Germany, there is no NATO. It's basically Germany and the United States and then everybody else just suckling at the teat. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, I think it's an interesting, and he goes on to explain that basically every single government in Europe is going to be overthrown peacefully, but they're all going to be overthrown by populist nationalist movements. And he said Germany's probably going to be the first, and Germany will probably be the most aggressive. Like he said it probably won't even be the AD, like whatever, the AFK or whatever. It'll be them, but then he thinks something even more nationalist will come after them, where it won't just be Germany first. It'll be Germany only is the word he used to describe.
Oh, he's saying it could get dark a little bit, is what he's saying.
No. He's saying that there's also going to be a France only and a like Britain only, and basically the antithesis of what the European Union represents, which is national sovereignty and every country just earnestly operating from its own best interest. And that doesn't mean they're imposing themselves on everybody else or starting wars or anything. He's just saying that this European Union concept is a total failure and it's already collapsed under the weight of its own ineptitude. So that's a really interesting dynamic, because what we've basically been waiting on to in this conflict with Russia is the collapse of NATO, because NATO is an obsolete organization. There's no reason for it to exist. It was created to fight the Soviet Union, to counter the Soviet Union. Soviet Union hasn't existed for 30 years, 35 years. So like, why are we still doing this stupid song and dance? And the answer, of course, is because warmongering, blood-sucking vampires, run the United States and run NATO, and they want war with Russia. And no matter what, they're going to get war with Russia, and exposing those people and effectively destroying them. I mean, they need to be destroyed, whether that is through prosecutions or removing them from power, having their lives destroyed through social incentives, whatever it is. These people need to be destroyed because they refuse to relent on this idea that there's going to be a kinetic World War III between Russia and the United States, with the respective partners on either side. China being on Russia's side, as well as Iran, and NATO, Europe, Canada, Australia being on the American side.
Yeah. I mean, as the British had made the point, NATO's entire purpose from its inception was to keep Germany down, Russia out, and America in. And that was a British grand strategist who was heading NATO at the time. And that was, I think, that's been generally the idea, is to lock the U.S. into a supranational operation that would have a military that would destroy the sovereignty of nations to control their own militaries, which is what the collective security agreement does. Basically activates itself anytime there's a conflict, a squabble between any two member states of that's Collective 5. That's essentially the previous League of Nations, covenant of Article 10 and 11. from the previous iteration of what NATO was of the League of Nations that was rejected by the American patriots around Warren Harding, the assassinated, and I say assassinated because I think he really was assassinated, president in the 1920s who organized a league of sovereign nations to reject supranational globalism back in 22, 23, 24. I think he was killed by, they say oyster poisoning or something, food poisoning en route back down from like Alaska, which is also interesting. He also had very close contacts with patriots within Russia and was helping to broker a deal between Rapallo. Yeah, or in Rapallo in Italy, there was a deal between the German and the Russian foreign ministers, assisted by the Americans, to avoid the Versailles debt repayments, which is essentially the whole Versailles debt repayments is kind of like today's derivative bubble. It was designed to not be paid and to force countries, Germany, to print money, to go hyperinflation, to destroy their economy, and then absorb them back as a slave system that would then go fascist. Because you know, if you want to get hard fascism, destroy the economy and the dignity of a people under some globalist thing, and then you will get the opposite backlash. That's my concern right now with what I see coming out of some of the more radical social engineering operations going on throughout Europe right now, are these Templar, Gnostic, high-level occult operations to try to take this healthy, nationalism and amplify it towards its perverse extremities, which is where, the fascist version of Germany and Italy came out of, was the choking, suffocating embarrassment of effectively woke liberalism and globalism of the 1920s under the Versailles thing. But all that to say, Warren Harding was a hero who's totally not respected properly, because this guy was making bilateral treaties with Austria, with Germany, helping Germany and Russia negotiate treaties outside that would have erased the Versailles debts. He was working with Sun Yat-sen in China to help China also broker a real industrial renaissance there with American help. And he was killed. And then all of these people who he was working with all died. The foreign minister of Germany, Walter Rathenau, was murdered by anarchist assassins. Sun Yat-sen, the first president of China, also turns up dead in 25. The key figures around Lenin, who are trying to infuse a little bit of sanity out of the craziness of the Wall Street steered Bolshevik revolution and work to build economic bridges with Russia and the USA, they're killed. So you got all of this stuff that just destroys it. And then NATO comes on and basically repackages everything the League of Nations was trying to do by creating a supranational military. And that's what we've been living under. And it should have been, like you said, abolished when the Soviet Union dissolved itself willfully in 1991-92. It should not exist. And yet we've allowed it to not only exist, but expand.
Thrive.
Expand to oh man, it went from 15 countries who were members in 1998. It bombed the hell out of Yugoslavia, killing 40,000 civilians illegally. No UN Security Council. It just went and did it under Clinton. And then it's been continuing to grow like a monster to 31 countries today, or I think 30 or 31 countries today. And it has no end to its ambition.
And prospective members as well. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And then you got the Pacific NATO that's also in play right now, where they want to expand NATO into the quad of, Japan and South Korea and India. They want to get them in on the action for this NATO, Pacific NATO around China, to do what they've been doing to Russia, but around China. So it's a terrible, sick idea. So hopefully what Trump has put forth, both to end the tension, basically create an absolute neutrality for Ukraine, God willing, that works out, but also for China, because I think you recently had an announcement where Xi Jinping expressed interest on the offer to go to the United States, and Trump expressed some openness to also go to Beijing, I think in April of next year. I'm not even too sure exactly of the dates. These things are very fluid, but that was a very good conversation. So I don't know if there's any points on those two elements, the removal of the tension on the Russian front in Ukraine that you want to expand upon a little bit more, and also the removal of potential tension on the NATO. Japan has been getting very belligerent, saying that any type of Chinese abuses of democracy of Taiwan will be seen as a threat to Japan and even will invoke military actions by Japan against China. Japan being, of course, a giant U.S. military industrial, base as masquerading as a country. That's not good. So what do you think about those two elements?
Yeah, so I think you're right that there is a serious danger here, and as we shift towards this populist nationalist wave that's washing over the entire world is shifting towards populist nationalism, and it's not a coincidence this is happening. This is all started, I think, with MAGA in 2016. Brexit, by the way, they voted Brexit like June of 2016, I think it was, and then MAGA, of course, elected Trump a few months later. So that kind of started the whole populist nationalist revolt against the one world globalist unipolar government, right? And, I think that the way, this is just my opinion, and I could be wrong about this, but it seems like the way they wanted to set this whole thing up was the European Union was going to kind of be at the top of this hierarchy, of this unipolar hierarchy. And the only way that can be enforced is through these regulatory bodies that were regulating trade between every single country to make sure that the third world countries, the global south, remained slave farms and plantations, right, where they basically just had sweatshops and slave factories and fabricated economies, basically that were only there to manufacture cheap goods for the first world, for the quote unquote first world. And then the first world basically exists which is the United States, Australia, Canada, Europe, Russia. That exists basically as another kind of slave farm, a tax farm, to extract the wealth from those people, right? Industrialized economies that extract the wealth from those people, but two halves of a system that are dependent on one another in order to be enforced. Because what we've seen happen over the past 5 years, but the past 10 years, certainly under Biden, not because of Biden, but because of these other players like Faisal bin Farhan, Lavrov, Wang Yi from China, engaging in bilateral trade agreements, which was not even a common thing 5 years ago. That was a very rare thing that you would hear about, a bilateral agreement between two countries. You certainly didn't hear about bilateral trade agreements.
No.
And that became normalized under Biden. And then Trump has made it completely normal under his new administration. And what that does is it shifts the balance of power away from the European Union. The European Union is a laughingstock economically at this point because they have intentionally destroyed themselves. They've removed all of their energy independence. They've removed all their manufacturing. The only thing they really do well at this point is tourism. I mean, going to visit Europe is really the number one export that they have, is their tour. Like going on vacation in Europe, that's like their number one export at this point.
Selling little model Eiffel Towers.
Exactly.
Knickknacks.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some niche like industries they have, especially like when it comes to like luxury goods and food.
I went to Prague, and that is like the weed, drug, prostitution capital of Europe. Like, I gotta say, it's kind of scary how much of their economy is hinged upon their massive red light district, which is kind of like technically illegal, but everybody knows about this thing. And any little corner store has spliffs already rolled for you. You can just go buy your milk and eggs, any grocery store, everywhere. And that's a big chunk of the Prague, which is a beautiful, beautiful city. By the way.
I love Prague. Prague's like old town, and Prague is like one of my favorite places in the world.
Yeah, it's so nice. And I only realized in hindsight afterwards that there's this incredible occult underground that I didn't know about while I was there. And in hindsight, I'm kicking myself in the ass because I would have loved to figure out if there were any kinds of tours or anything. I doubt it. I think the most interesting stuff, it's like the Vatican, right? Like, or the underground crypts and stuff under France. It's like you probably need to be vetted if you want to get access, but it's fascinating that there's this entire like sort of deep structure below these things.
For sure. Well, so to finish my thought, because I know I was getting a little long-winded there, but the bilateral trade agreements have undermined all of these regulatory bodies. They basically don't matter anymore. Like nobody cares about the regulatory. Nobody even like adhering to them. They're just going and negotiating with country to country, which is the way it should be.
Yeah.
You then have the because of these trade agreements, you have like Rosneft would be one example, the Russian energy company, but a number of other countries going around building nuclear power plants for third world countries, bringing nuclear power, cheap energy to the third world. That is totally going to shift the balance of power and undermine that two-part slave farm system, where one half of the world is a slave farm of underdeveloped economies that manufacture cheap shit, and then the other half of the world are hyper-industrialized economies that don't really make anything and just have extreme wealth that's extracted by the ruling class through taxation. And this is going to totally throw that off kilter, because now all these countries can proceed in any direction they want to in terms of developing an economy, because they'll have cheap energy. And the cheap energy is everything. And it was never supposed to be this way. Nuclear energy was being ushered out of the door because it was too bad for the environment, whatever bullshit, excuse they gave, the Malthusians gave for ending it. And now the other threat that we're running into, so the European Union is not going to be at the top of a unipolar hegemony. The European Union is going to get left in the dust, while countries in Africa are going to surpass them if they're not careful. How do you then subvert what you described, this Templar, like in America, we're seeing it like the neocons are putting on the MAGA hat and getting into the crowd and being like, oh yeah, America first. Like, we were here all along, guys. These are people who, by the way, like in 2016, were saying that Donald Trump should be in prison and, is a threat to our democracy and all that bullshit. And then 2020 said the exact same thing. And now they're pretending that they were always on Team Trump and they were always backing Trump. It's just so transparently fraud. I mean, it's just so transparently like just bullshit. And it's hard to stomach watching it. That's how frustrating it is. But Trump, to his credit, is like brought these people in and bear hugged them and been like, these are my guys. Yeah. While he's like putting out rhetoric that everybody hates, which is like,
well, I think that's always the challenging thing, right? Is like the fact that we know that that evil will subvert and co-opt symbols of the good and messages and words of the good. So it's frustrating sometimes to see throughout history evildoers using good seductive language, which on a surface level is true, which is why the honey is attractive to be eaten. But you don't then realize as you're eating the honey that it's been poisoned and you're taking in something else. But inversely, at the best of times, you also have the good who are able to to subvert and reintroduce something good in those same symbols too, right? Like the fact that you have, I wrote an article for Badlands last week going through the use of the Phrygian cap. The Phrygian cap being something which was a symbol of many revolutionary activities in the 18th and 19th centuries. Benjamin Franklin designed a U.S. Liberty coin in like 1783 with the Phrygian cap on it. There's like 14 U.S. states that feature it. Now, you could say, well, that means that the U.S. is a giant Mithraic operation because the Phrygian cap is featured on Mithra, Sol Invictus, the enemy of Jesus, right? Also on Attis, the emasculated half deity figure that cut off his balls in ancient myth, and had a whole cult, a powerful cult with Sibyl Attis, and also he's wearing a Phrygian cap. You've got Orpheus from the Orphic initiatory cult, who also has a Phrygian cap. So you could say, oh, the U.S. Revolution, all of that it's just a giant Mithraic, mystery cult controlled opposition. However, if you look at the symbol of the Phrygian cap, it didn't always mean the same thing. And depending on who is trying to use it, like for those who used it during the French Revolution, yeah, there were a bunch of occultists for sure. That was bad. And the Jacobins, you see them like walking around with that stupid Phrygian that cap. That thing is a Phrygian cap, the red hat. It was big. It was used a lot in the Paris Olympics of last year. But they were trying to topple Christianity. They were trying to create the cult of the supreme being, which was and like restore Isis and all of these mystery cults, right? This was a Templar operation. In fact, the core headquarters of the Jacobins was this Templar castle that was used by the Inquisition to torture people. And it was still used to torture people and cut off their heads during the French Revolution. So that was bad. But did it mean the same thing to everybody? No, because if you look at the origins of the Phrygian cap, originally it came out of the Ionian rebellion of like 599 or 499. That Ionian rebellion against Persia featured a people who were liberty-loving people who fought and overthrew the Persian empires, which is basically the martial lord for Babylon, their control. And that inspired Athens. It inspired basically the entire revolution that gave rise to modern democracy through Solon's reforms and everything else was inspired by the Ionian people in today's Phrygia. And one of their symbols was that very thing. But it was only like a century and a half after the Phrygian rebellion that inspired basically modern Western civilization as we know it, that you had it subverted by the infusion from Iran or from Persia of these Mithraic and Cybelian Attis deities that were then introduced into Phrygia to subvert those societies from within by rebranding their deities, their pagan deities, with symbolism that was shared very like that the Ionians admired, like symbols of liberty. So all of a sudden these pagan evil deities that didn't have Phrygian caps before that all of a sudden appear on the scene with Phrygian caps. Now all of a sudden it's being used to promote evil. So the question is, which part of the history are you looking at when you're trying to when Benjamin Franklin or any of his allies are looking to this symbol versus their enemies in the Hellfire Club who are also looking to the same symbol? Like, so who's doing that? So when you see Trump as well, often using language which might, cause you to reek in repulsion, you're like, well, okay, does that mean that he is necessarily saying that he is part of this New World Order operation, or is he trying to rebrand what this language is or what these people are doing? Now, I don't know for sure. Maybe he is, but I hope not. And there's reason to believe that he is not, right? That he's actually doing what Benjamin Franklin was doing. I think there's reason to believe that. So just wanted to toss that out there as an idea, because a lot of people get very quickly overly blackpilled on a lot of these things, and they don't often look at the nuance that you're trying to bring to the surface on this.
Yes, and I think you're spot on. I think there's a lot of oversimplification when it comes to this stuff, where people just want to take the oversimplified idea or concept, because digging deep into it takes time, energy, and who has time for that, right? And most people don't have time to dig into every single little thing. But then that also the danger there is that when you oversimplify things, that you miss the nuance that is critical to understanding it. For example, I think that if you, like, a lot of people are just saying, all right, well, if it's as simple as y'all say it is, and Trump and Putin are buddies and they're friends, why not just sign the deal tomorrow, end the deal, like end the war, establish the peace, and let's just move on and keep powering forward. I've thought about this a lot, and what I have discerned or the point I've reached is pretty much that is what the bad guys count on happening all the time, every time, is they count on a quick fix, because a quick fix can be easily subverted in the future. They can easily go and break the ceasefire. They can how many times have we seen a ceasefire sign in Israel, and then the ceasefire is broken, and they always have a reason why it was broken and why it wasn't their fault, right? It's much more effective, in my opinion, this thing being dragged out. While it's not ideal for us, because we just like it's agonizing to watch this get dragged out. The process of it being dragged out, it's like the journey is the destination. The process of it being dragged out is all of the actors in the battle space are forced to respond to these conditions as they happen. Meaning the pattern of behavior over a long enough time scale demonstrates who is trustworthy, who isn't trustworthy. And more like every day, more and more people who claim to be one thing are outing themselves as actually the complete opposite. And we're learning that there are actually a lot of warmongers who were claiming they weren't warmongers. There are a lot of people who claim to be MAGA who don't actually express MAGA America First ideals. And, it's almost like it's like a crucible. It's like a crucible,
Yeah.
like a furnace. You're burning away all of the useless particles and leaving the purity of what we're trying to achieve here, which is peace, right? So,
yeah, right.
The other aspect of it, real quick, is just all of these negotiations that are happening. These trade deals are establishing a framework, an architecture, a geopolitical diplomatic architecture that inherently disincentivizes kinetic conflict, because unlike the globalist system where these these regulatory bodies dictated who was making what and who was trading with who, now we have more of an organic, intertwined geopolitical economy where people are investing in each other's countries while also developing the resources themselves. And whoever can make it for the cheapest will sell it. And, that's the marketplace, the free market solving problems. And I think the more you have those layers on top of one another, the less you're going to see countries wanting to actually resolve their disputes through kinetic conflict.
Yeah. All right. On that note, we're reaching the top of the hour. And unfortunately, I got a 1 o'clock appointment that I totally forgot about. So, all right. So let's round out today's show then with a little. Actually, I could do maybe 5 minutes. Do we have any questions? Do you want to field any questions from the guest for 5 minutes, or should we just
let's
close it up?
Let's see if we have any boosts or rants. Okay. Y'all hit the thumbs up. If you have an ad, why don't you hit the ad, and then we'll see if there are any questions.
I misplaced the ad. Give me a second. But I noticed that somebody, as I'm looking for the ad, somebody had mentioned something to the effect that they were surprised to hear that NATO was designed to suppress Germany. Didn't the Nazis continue to run NATO, or weren't they working with NATO after World War II? And both of those things are true. Yes, NATO was a Nazi institution. It was the instrument for the Fascist International, as everybody should know about Operation Gladio. At the same time, it was also designed to destroy the German culture and to suppress the German people, which were never the same thing as Nazism. So the very fact that many people have been brainwashed to think of the Nazis of World War II and the Germans as the same thing, already they got us. So you can't let that happen. Germany, as the culture, the people, were always designed to be destroyed by the Nazis. The Nazis was an occult agency sponsored by Western financiers and occultists. We've gone through this many times. Not the same thing as the German culture, German people. That last ad is a disclosure ad, but I don't think I downloaded it. I can't find it. So I will say, damn it, I lost it. Do you see it?
Hold on. I can pull it up. Let me see if let me pull up
SD Holiday ad. Here, it's SD Holiday.
Oh,
I got it. Here it is. Here it.
We already have that uploaded. That's soft disclosure.
I just found it. Okay.
Soft disclosure just dropped new favorites for the season. The lotion, your 5-ounce favorite, is still here. And now we've added full 11-ounce bottles. New lavender tea tree deodorant, clean, calm, and effective. New tallow bars, chamomile lemon rose, and naked. Rich moisture that actually works. And on Black Friday, the new arrivals land. Introducing our first men's only formula, beard oil, in unscented and spiced vanilla. Truth, tamed, and finally your beard is too. Tallow lip balms, made with beef tallow and lanolin for serious moisture. Available in chamomile mint, vanilla, naked, and vanilla tangerine. Plus, mini tallow bars, same deep moisture as the full size. Available in vanilla coffee and naked. And finally, lavender vanilla lotion. Smooth, soothing, and worth the wait. On Black Friday, the new products arrive, and so do the Black Friday bundles. Visit softdisclosure.com for truth you can gift.
Soft disclosure. All right. Any messages?
No, no rants, but I will say happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I don't know if y'all celebrate Thanksgiving in Canada, but happy Thanksgiving to you too, Matt. And I wish the blessings of American prosperity onto the Canadian people. Did you see that Mark Carney said the other day that the world doesn't need America and the world would be fine without America? I thought that was pretty funny.
Yes.
Yeah. I was like, yeah, okay. Carney, you are exactly who I thought you were.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true.
Thanks to Matt, because Matt educated me on who Mark Carney is, the king of central bankers.
Yep.
So, all right, man. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We will see you next week. And,
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, hit the thumbs up.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.